Welcome to the Impact Effect podcast. We've got a special episode today with my man, Hayes Wright Jr. And you heard that, Junior, just like my little junior that we had about 8-10 weeks ago. So this podcast is going to be special today because this gentleman has done so many interesting things in his life. He has committed to our military for several years, retired, a veteran. They even created their own position for Hayes in the military, which we don't hear about, right? We hear about that sometimes maybe in corporate or, a startup. So we've got a ton of stuff to unpack today, and I'm excited to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. Nice to be here.
Yeah. It's going to be a good conversation. So as you know, first question, as always, how do you define impact and how do you show up in the world and provide impact today?
Man, I love that question.
We're jumping right into it, man.
Head into it. I love it. I love it. Let's get it. So I would say impact, my definition of impact is to have a strong effect on others. When someone has a strong effect on others, I think that's making what you would call making an impact.
Yeah.
So, for me, I've always had I guess you could say directly and indirectly, I've had a gift of like ministry. So, my wife says it a lot. A lot of other people say it. They say you don't have much to say, but when you do speak, it's pretty powerful. So I think that kind of falls under that word impact. It's pretty impactful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Power of the word, man. There's nothing like it.
absolutely. Absolutely. So yeah, man, people come to me and like, it's funny because, and my wife's the same way. So I think that's I'm also very spiritual. So I think that's that's one of the main reasons why God put us together. So it's like, it's funny when other couples and people have issues and problems, they call us. They say, hey, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that? Or they, maybe even ask, what does the Bible say about this, that? Yeah, my mom does that. She always calls me and asks me about certain scriptures and things like that. So,
Now, do you think that because you're not a marriage counselor, you're not, a therapist, but do you think that's just because of how you position and kind of brand yourself, meaning like you're not always that person that has to jump up and speak and butt in, but you are that person that's reserved and methodical in their thought process and drops that value bomb when needed most?
yeah, very methodical. I think the two main things that it comes from is ever since I was a kid, I've always had this special like relationship, I guess you could say, with the Most High.
Yeah.
So I've always heard his voice. I've always felt his presence. And from that, it allowed me to kind of study his word. So there's a lot in there.
Of course.
That, and then over 20 years of personal development.
Yeah.
Because I'm a lover of knowledge and information. I'm a seeker of knowledge. I always want to learn. I love to learn. There's people that I followed for decades. And
what was your first, you said 20 years of personal development. What was your first experience with it?
To be honest, Jeff, network marketing.
Really? Okay.
It's crazy. It's crazy because I think I was in my early 20s and my sister had joined this company. I'm going to put their name out there, but it's a great company. It just, she said, hey, bro, I think I got this opportunity. And I said, okay, let me check it out. Well, actually, I was busy, very busy. So she just stayed persistent, and I'm thankful that she did. And tracked me down. Finally, she's like, look, did you come to this meet? Check this thing out. And that's what, I don't know if you have any experience with network marketing, but it's
get them in the room.
Get them in. That's it.
Get them in the
Got
room.
me in the room, got bit by the bug. I'm like, oh man. But the main thing about it was, and that's the thing I do like about network marketing, is the personal development piece. So they, they encourage you to read books and encourage you to listen to, tapes. Back then it was cassette tapes
Yeah.
and things like that. So I think those two, studying, the word and a lot of personal development, there's a lot that's in here. And I think at the appropriate times they come out for others.
It's interesting, like, growing up Catholic in Boston, but not really being religious and only going to when funerals, and then learning personal development from a business side or an aspect, start to realize where they cross over in a lot of ways.
Absolutely.
And then start to realize that, almost all of it is derived from some type of religion or following, and it's kind of just woven in with different stories, expectations, realities, and situations and scenarios. So I found that to be very interesting because we're in Nashville, Tennessee. A lot of people, heavy into religion. We're in the Bible Belt, right? So a lot of people start with the religion side and then see it on the business. I was kind of reversed, where I was like, wow, let me dive more into that concept, and then realizing where it actually came from.
Okay, yeah.
So just I'm like the other side of it. 20 years personal development in the military. Talk to me just a little bit about some advice you'd share after experiencing all those things with some of the listeners.
To me, just in life or within the military.
Life, man. Like what's something that you've learned and want to pass off and share with some of the listeners?
I would say it's all connected. It's more connected than you think. And I think you just said that in a way, and I said it as well. Like, I grew up Catholic, by the way, too.
Yeah.
My first 10 years in school, from first grade to 10th grade was Catholic. Catholic school, and I did my first 2 years of high school at Catholic high school.
Wow. Okay.
So I'm very much familiar with that, with that realm. I would just say it's all connected. Everything is connected. People think that, oh, I can do this and not have to do that, or they think that I'm not gonna say necessarily religion because I'm not too much of a religious person, but I'm very spiritual.
Yeah.
And I think spiritual is more universal, where religion is more traditional and there's lanes and
Totally.
separation and all that. But in life and whatever you're doing, so for me it was the military, and business,
Yeah.
right? Because I love business as well. So military, business, spirituality, it was all connected. And I didn't know that in my younger days,
Wow.
but I learned it now. It's like, wow, you know what? This is connected to this, which is affiliated with that, which can affect this. And it's all connected. It's more connected than people think it is. So there's some things that you may think that has nothing to do with something else that you're doing, but it really does.
Yeah. So does that help you in times or periods of highs and lows, peaks and valleys?
Oh, absolutely.
Right? Because like where my mind goes is like, dang, this just happened to my business, or I just lost this money, or I think back about my journey in business with my first business, and how COVID happened with my second business, and now it's on to the third and the fourth, and now we're launching the sixth, and it's a journey. And I wonder if those things didn't happen, would I be here today? Or would I be here but doing something drastically different?
I think another piece, right? I think failure is part of the process.
Yeah.
Like you just said, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and now you're here. Absolutely, you would not be here had you not.
Yeah.
You
Made
know?
some changes, some pivots,
Yeah,
some transformations along the way. It's for sure.
You learn so much more in a loss than you ever do with a win.
Totally.
You know what I'm saying? Like when you win, it's like, okay, I won. But when you lose, you go back and you review and you take notes and you go, and okay, what did I do wrong here? And You know what I'm saying?
Oh
So
yeah. Oh
it's,
yeah. I mean, it's the way of life, I
yeah.
think.
I think I'm a huge Jordan fan because I'm a '70s baby, so I watched Jordan my whole childhood and young adult.
Yeah.
And he has this commercial where he says he's taken so many shots, so many game-winning shots and missed, and he's done this. But he was naming his failures.
Yeah.
I missed this. I didn't do that. I failed at that. I got cut from the high school team when I was a sophomore, and he said I failed over and over and over again. But that's why I succeed. Yeah. So that's the thing. It's like, failure is part of the process. So I think people, when they start something or they try something, myself included, and you don't hit that home run on the first swing, you're like,
You lose your kind of drive, or you start thinking maybe I should not do this, or that imposter syndrome, that negativity creeps in, and those thoughts overrule
absolutely.
your mindfulness. And I think that's the big piece is, at the end of the day is a failure is a tool, and what's in your toolbox, and are you going, and I do this sometimes, not all the times, but I will go and reflect on some of the wins and, break them apart as if they were a loss.
Right.
Because when I am on a win streak, I don't want to lose the analyzation, the critical thinking piece of, could I have made it better? Did we get lucky? Was this one person here that's not going to be at the next event or the next conference? Or if my assistant's not going to be with me when I'm speaking, is like all these things aren't consistent 24/7. So there's changes in those processes, those procedures. And am I stress testing it to the point where I know if it's going to break or not? Or am I just rolling in the wins and so focused on the momentum that I just keep going, and I'm not learning for when the things aren't as congruent or fluid or easily done or accomplished? And I always find myself, in a situation where I'll beat myself up sometimes because I'm like, oh, but we crushed it on that last time.
Right.
But then I realize, well, I didn't stress test that piece of the business. So why would it work consistently and consecutively? 10 out of 10. We didn't get to the stress level that was needed for it to break, but it could happen and try 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Said, and I'll give you a perfect example of this more recently with my last conference. We had around 150 people, 12 speakers, full day, VIP night, after party. We had all the things. And we did our rehearsal, our AV, we did all of it. Everything was great. The year before, we crushed it. Not one thing, not one issue. Well, the screen broke when we were supposed to start the event, the big LED screen. Well, I didn't have a plan for that, so it was chaos. But I didn't have to have a plan because we were successful in the AV launch last year. So what I learned was, if the AV don't break, you have to have a plan as if everything breaks.
Absolutely.
So literally, the next big conference, we are going to have someone on speed dial to bring in a new LED screen if we need to. So yeah, we wouldn't have it on the first half of the event, but we would have it on the second half, right? And then also, who needs, because the timer broke this year for the speakers, and the PowerPoint wasn't up on the screen, so they couldn't see what they were changing. They'd had to look behind them, right? All these things we planned and prepped and practiced and rehearsed for, but just didn't happen that day because of the system, right? Technology. And then I started thinking about, what about all the other technology I'm using in my business?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like, what if your CRM didn't work and you have a sales quota to meet, or you're trying to bring in some business before the end of the year, to hit Q4 numbers, whatever that situation or scenario is, what if you couldn't get to your sales system? What would you do? So it's like, just even things like that, where I'm now making a note and I'm putting stuff into my CRM so I can always go back to my little black book. My little black book will tell me my last conversations, dates, times, key factors, right? I'm not doubling up my work because I want to be lean and efficient and strategic. But will that help me one day if I lose my CRM? Yes, it will. Absolutely. It's not perfect, but I can still operate. I can still, provide value to those folks, check in with them, ask them how they're doing. And it's a CRM that's not just built on sales, it's built on human connection. So it allows me to stay in touch with people who may never even work with me or hire me, or we may never collaborate or partner. But those systems and those structures, man, when you're winning all the time, you're not thinking, I got to build this for the rainy day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
In your career,
they call that in the sports a dynasty.
Dynasty.
A team that wins, but they're constantly reviewing.
Yeah.
Constantly analyzing.
Reminds me of the
Treating
Patriots.
wins like losses. That's the thing that popped in my head when you said.
Reminds me of the Patriots, man. Their run.
God, you're from Boston.
Their run is over. I think their run is over.
Big time. I think the rest of the league is relieved.
Yeah.
Because
Enough's enough.
Tom hung it up. But hey, 7 rings, got to give it to him.
I'll take it. So back to you. Tell us a little bit about the military side, some things that you learned along the way, and then talk to us about what you're doing now and what we can see in the future.
Okay. So it's funny. A lot of what you just shared, we do in the military. We did in the military. So the beginning of my career, I was more hands-on. I started out in electronics communications, got out, came back in, wanted to do that again, and they said it wasn't available. So they kind of pushed me where they wanted me to go.
Yeah.
And I ended up in petroleum and fuels and bulk fuels and stuff like that. So I was more hands-on, but then towards the end of my career, I say the last third of my career, so I went what you call warrant officer. So a lot of people that's in the military, if you know, you know. I went warrant officer, so I became a logistician. So now it was like 95% logistics. I had 98% logistics.
Wow. Okay.
So all those things you just said, planning, predicting, forecasting, all of those things, it's like, okay, everything's right, but what can go wrong?
Yeah.
And it's impossible to forecast everything that can go wrong, but you want to do it as much as possible.
Yep.
So, and in our realm, we call that SOPs.
Yep.
Standard operating procedures. And it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to make sure everything go as right as possible, but we're also going to prepare ourselves as much as we can for anything that can go wrong. So we did a lot for site thing in the military.
Contingency over contingency plan.
Risk assessment.
Yep.
All of that. We did all of those things.
It's funny. You know what you just, sparked my interest and my thought process on that I wanted to share with our listeners is, I said earlier I was on the 6th business and we're about to launch that in 3 or 4 weeks or so. And I'm writing a business plan. And what I realized is how many times have I written a SWOT analysis, right? Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats when I started a business and never revisited that document ever again in the business.
Oh, wow. Yes.
And as I was thinking through that, I was like, threats change annually. The economy changes annually. Technology changes annually. We're in a world of artificial intelligence. We're in a world of hybrid actual intelligence. We're in a world of folks that are still seeking that in-person presence, but also a wave of folks who are now transitioning and strategizing digitally. Right. So you've got all these threats that are changing annually. And I realized in all of my businesses, I only did a SWOT analysis and analyzed those threats in the first year, the first creation of the business. So if you're a business owner, you're an entrepreneur, go do a SWOT analysis and put it on your calendar for every year. When you're doing your budget, this is a great time to analyze a SWOT analysis because your threats, the economy, some of your strengths, changes, policy. This year was an election year. These things do change those strengths and those opportunities as well. So go in it to build the contingency planning around the threats, but also enhance and update those opportunities, those strengths, and all those weaknesses. Yes. So just a reminder for you and myself, I already put it on the calendar for next year. I'm like, budget, SWOT analysis, tech stack update. Like those are my three big things I got to do next year in December. But back to the military, back to the contingency planning, all the strategy. You're hands-on, more logistics. You made that transition. Now you're retired from the military.
Yes, sir.
Talk to the listener out there that had to make some of these big changes or is thinking about a big change. What would you say to that person that's 20, that person that's 40 years old, that person that's about to retire? What would you say to those three groups of folks based on your experience,
Okay.
your life?
I like
We're gonna
that.
go deep here.
I
A
like that one. I like that one, man.
20-year-old, a 40-year-old, and a 60-year-old getting ready for retirement.
Okay, let me start with this. To the 20-year-old, have a plan. To the 40-year-old, have a plan. So guess what I'm going to say to the 60-year-old? Have a plan. Right. That is the biggest thing that I've seen over the course of just my life, in my career. A lot of things I did, I didn't have a plan. And now I will say this, there's a difference between a plan and an idea, right? You can have an idea and say, hey, I'm going to do so-and-so, so-and-so. But when you have a plan, you have all of the details.
Yep.
All right. So to the 20-year-old, if you're trying to find your way and you're trying to see what it is that you want to do, find out everything about what you're interested in. So find out the good, the bad, and the ugly. Not just the good, because a lot of times we have a tendency to look at something and say, oh man, and you see the good things. Oh, look at this, this, and this. I like that. I like this, whether it be the pay or whatever the case may be. But you don't look at what sucks about what it is that you're looking at doing. So the first time you cross that and come into that, you quit.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So check it all out. And it's okay with finding your way. It's okay with trying more than one thing. You're not a failure if you try something or even try a few things and that may not be what you really want to do, or it may not be your niche.
Totally.
Try something else and then keep trying, keep looking until you find what it is that you're good at and that you love to do. But what was it? It was someone, I forgot who else. I'm always listening to, books, audio books, and watching videos and all that. But they said, like find out what your gift is. Your gift is something that you can do with minimal effort and you love doing it. Yeah.
It lights you up.
If you can find a way to monetize that, now that's your calling.
Yep.
Because you're living off of what you love to do, and it takes minimal effort to do. Yes, take pleasure in doing that.
Yeah. It's powerful. Powerful.
40-year-old, do an assessment. Go look back 20 years, look forward 20 years. That's something I didn't do when I was 40. Go back and say, hey, what was I intending to set out to do at 20, and have I done that? And if I haven't, how far off the mark am I? And now what do I want to do in the next 20 years? And you can do a reset, you can do adjustments, pivots, whatever it is that you need to do, but know where you want to go and where you want to be, right? 5, 10, 20 years from now, and then start doing those things. So the 60-year-old, I want to say you should have it figured out by now. But if you don't, that's fine. Like what's the average age of?
I think 54.
54. So it's not like it's over. Okay. And that's what I'll say to the 60-year-old.
Yeah.
It's not over. It's not over. There are a lot of people right now that are just getting started,
Totally.
in their 50s. Sometimes it takes a minute. Like some of us I'm one of those people. Like I'm in my 50s, and a lot of those light bulbs are coming on. I appreciate the personal development. I appreciate the things that, even God put in me,
Yeah.
and all of this, the nuggets and the knowledge and everything that I have and the experience and everything. But there's a lot of light bulbs that are just not coming on, Jim. But I appreciate that. And it's not over.
Yeah.
It's not over, man. Let's go to work. If you got something out there to do, let's get out here and do it. So
It's great advice. And, I'm 35. So I appreciate the 40. I also didn't do that at 20. So I would have appreciated that as well.
yes, sir. Me too.
For sure. But I think the biggest thing, for me and where I'm at is that reflection of the 20 years prior, right? Because I'm very futuristic. It's natural for me. If you take the Clifton Strengths Finders, one of my 5 strengths is futuristic, right? I'm always thinking ahead. If you take the human design test, I'm a projector, right? I want to advise, I want to analyze. So I'm always doing those things, but sometimes I forget to look back and to live in that level of gratitude, and also to analyze if something didn't happen, well, what's the beauty that I didn't plan for or didn't expect that did happen, right? Like, I always wanted kids, but didn't expect to have 2 beautiful, super healthy kids, a great relationship, be in a position where I do multiple things so I can press the gas here, but pull back here in this period of time where I need to be home more and I want to be home more. But I think that reflection of where I was 20 years ago and where I'm at today is just so key.
It's huge.
Like, I'm thinking back now, like, what was I doing 20 years ago, right? I was 15 years old. And that was a really, really, really difficult time. That was a survival mode for me. That's when I found out my parents were addicted to OxyContin.
Oh, wow.
So when I think back of what was in my mind, like having sex with any hot chick ever, getting drunk, right? Like, right? Like,
Yeah.
and wanting a family. But now I have that family and it's just starting. So it's just this beautiful thing to reflect back and have that level of gratitude. I feel like you just put me in a place with very high gratitude. Like, I feel like I need to write some stuff down and reflect more just today based on what you said.
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely going to look back at this and take notes. So, yeah, that is a huge lesson for me. Like, if you're not pleased with where you are, look back. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's like, okay. And I'm like you, Jim. Like, I'm always looking ahead. I'm always looking big picture. I'm a visionary. That's what I did in the military. Like I said, when I was in the logistics side, we worked for generals. So, and at those high levels, you had to be able to predict and forecast. So it's still in my blood. I'm just, removed just a year from the military. So I'm always looking ahead. I'm always planning. I'm always forecasting. I'm always, trying to predict. I'm always trying to do these things and say, okay, we need to be here. We need to do this. We need to make this happen. And, and it's like I said, my spirituality, that quiet, still voice was just like, look back. And it's like, and if you're not happy where you are, and if you think that you're not making any progress, and if you think you're not getting it done.
Yep.
You're 20 miles down the road, and you think you're not going anywhere. Look back. You see, oh, okay, I've already gone 20 miles.
It's interesting to give that perspective based on what you've done, where you're at, retired now. Like, it's so interesting to see that because you've done it and you've played massive, important roles in different industries, the protection of our country. You also haven't got into yet what you're doing in the future here.
Oh, yeah.
Which I'm really excited about, and I'm also passionate about based on, where a lot of that derived from, and I'll let you kind of dive into that. But just, it's interesting to see how you've reflected your gratitude, your growth, and where you're providing that level of impact in these different industries, different sectors.
That's him.
So, all that to be said, tell us about post-retirement, man.
So,
Because you ain't done. You ain't hanging it up the boots,
I
folks.
still got plenty
And
of
no,
left in the
no,
gym, so-
yo. He's got a fresh shirt on. You can't even see the kicks, but my man's looking dapper over here today. He's not even getting close to being done.
So, okay, I'm gonna do a quick shout out right quick. Is that
Let's
okay?
do it, yeah.
The dapper comes from my wife. Right. So shout out to my baby, Dana Wright, and she is a fashion consultant. She does style. She does thrifting.
Cool,
She does that. She does modeling,
cool.
things of that nature. But the core of it is ministry, because what she's doing is she's helping a lot of our sisters out here, just women. When I say sisters, I'm talking about women in general, right? She helps them with their self-esteem,
I love it.
because there's a lot of broken women out there that they may not be, and she's a full-figure mom, okay? But there may be women out there that society says that they're not beautiful. But through the help of the Most High, she reminds them that they are beautiful.
Of course, they were created for a reason.
Absolutely, absolutely. No one here is a waste. So she helped with the journey.
Yeah.
So shout out to my baby. But as far as for me, I start with the small stuff. I have a passion for music. So back in high school, I used to DJ.
Yep,
And
and
it
then
just-
scratching records back in the day.
Big time. Big time. So I got bit by the hip hop bug because
Yeah.
it just came out. And it just came natural to me. So I'd love to do it. I would hear something once and I'd be able to do it on the turntables, this, that, and the other. And I was actually, back then, I was battling national recording artists, DJs and stuff like that. Because you got to figure, back then, the group actually was about the DJ.
Yeah.
More so than it was about,
Yep.
you know,
Yep.
the rap.
Really creating that experience.
Yeah.
Right.
So I picked that back up. And it's coming back to me, kind of knocking the dust off the old hands and wrists, but it's coming back.
Yeah.
And I'm having fun doing it, so I am looking at doing more. I'm leaning more towards like the corporate type events, things like that, weddings.
Of course.
I do some private events. I was, oh man, last weekend, I was blessed to do my wife's grandmother's 90th.
Yeah. You're telling me about that.
That was such a special event.
It's cool, man.
So to me,
What an experience.
oh, it was. To me, I take pride and passion in the things that I love to do. So I love to make those events special. And music is such a universal language. Everyone, it doesn't matter where you're from, where you live now,
Yeah.
what color you are, your background, whatever. Everyone listens.
To it all. Yeah.
Music is a universal connector. So I'm into that. Loving it. I don't know what's gonna come of it, but hey, I'm having fun.
We're gonna go on tour like Jesse Itzler, and he's gonna be my DJ. I'm gonna be speaking. We're gonna create this whole experience. So get ready.
Stay tuned. Okay, and then we're looking to start a nonprofit. And I was telling you about how we lost our son 2 years ago. It was like 2 years, just a week ago. It's been 2 years. So, and we lost him to suicide. So me being in the military, I was already familiar with suicide.
Yep.
But it's different. They hit different. When it hits that close to home, because I lost a lot of battle buddies.
Of course.
And I'm talking about people that I just talked to a day or two before. And you're like, man. So I'm saying that to say, and I'm going to share this a little bit.
Yeah.
You always going to wonder what you could have said or what you could have done different, or how could you have prevented it? And these are questions that will never get answered. So, and I told my wife, I said, I believe that God puts you through something all the time for a reason. So, we're gonna use that pain for purpose,
Of course.
and we're going to help advocate to bring awareness, suicide prevention awareness, things of that nature. So I'm geared more towards the veterans, um, and under the umbrella of suicide prevention, but we're not going to exclude
Of course.
anyone and everyone that can use our help, anyone that God will have us cross paths with, whatever. We are wide open for that type of ministry and that type of, I guess you could say, social work,
Yeah.
things of that nature.
Community impact.
Absolutely.
That's how I would
Absolutely.
describe that, as community-driven impact,
And
positive impact.
The last thing, sir, the last thing
Yeah.
is, I don't know why, but God is kind of leading me towards doing like spiritual business coaching, which is something I don't see much of.
Meaning like driven from spiritual tactics in order for you to get your mind right to grow your business.
And
Yeah.
connecting the business, because people forget about that part of it.
Faith-driven entrepreneurs, faith-driven leadership. Yeah. I like it. I like it. Well, there's that.
Higher levels.
I was going to say, oh, yeah.
Higher levels. Because, when you're a CEO and you're a founder and you're this, that, and the other, that it's, like I said in the beginning, things that you think aren't connected, they really are. They're more connected than you think, so don't forget, it's all connected.
Man, what good advice. Thank you for just pouring it out. The 20-year-old, the 40-year-old, the 60-year-old. I love it. I love it. And it all kind of comes back to that plan, like you said, right? And that plan's different, and that plan changes, and there's reflection and looking forward, but also looking backwards, and taking in everything under that consideration umbrella to truly, truly understand that it is all connected. It's amazing, man. Well, thanks for being here today. I appreciate you on the Impact Effect podcast. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the listeners, or where they can find you before we head out?
So I am on Facebook. My wife is pushing me to the social media realm. Dude, I'm old school. I didn't want to be bothered, but hey, we are out there. You can find me on Hayes Wright Jr. on Facebook. I'm also on LinkedIn.
Yep.
And I'm gonna get better on LinkedIn, y'all. Bear with me. And my DJ stuff is DJ Trinity. So it's TR-N-T33.
Cool.
So it's spelled that way. But I think if you look up Trinity, TRINITEE, spelled a little different.
We'll find you.
Yeah, you'll find me. So now that Trinity is on Facebook as well. It's under my normal page, my main page. The links there, and then also on Instagram. Trinity's on Instagram and TikTok.
Cool.
Sounds
Sounds
good.
good.
Make a push on TikTok. TikTok is blowing up, y'all. So if y'all want to hear some good music, good vibes, check out your boy. I got you.
Sounds good, man.
And then I also, let me finish with this, bro. That have a plan, push forward, but and while you're pushing towards what you're pushing towards, appreciate where you are. Because if you look back, you're further than where you were.